If you go back a generation or two, people who came into the Commons, whether from the left or the right, the primary objective was to serve the country or to serve their voters, not to make money for themselves. What is new is that the majority of people now coming into Parliament have sought politics as a career since leaving universities. And therefore what we see is the use of the House of Commons, use of MPs' alliances, the use of political connections as a way of making a huge sum of money. Very interesting to watch what happens to former ministers. Let's have a look at Tony Blair. You know, he's gone off to work for an American investment bank. He earns millions of pounds of money for that, giving very high-level consultancy about how to link business and politics. John Major, Blair's predecessor, joined the Carlyle Group, a very, very secretive, little-known organisation linked to the Bush family, whose whole sort of raison d'etre is to make money out of government privatisations and contracts. What it does is to cast doubt about the real integrity and independence of the advice these people are doing in office, because the people they're dealing with in office then come and give them jobs, incredibly well-paid jobs, afterwards. The political class funds party political activity in a completely different way to the system which prevailed after World War II. Because parties can't go to mass members anymore, there is one way they can use fund money, is by basically using their access to the process of government and selling that to interested parties in the business world. You go to the annual conference of the governing party, it's much more like a corporate away day than a party conference. And so businessmen who want to acquire access to the Prime Minister can get it, but they have to pay for it. And you get the emergence of these rather sinister figures, lauded in the press, never exposed, these people who broker. They broker between big business and the politicians. And they fix deals. I'll name them. I don't know if you have the balls to put this on air. Just maybe 2 or 3 others in London do handle a lot of this business of brokering, normally or often secret or very private deals between very senior and rich businessmen and their political clans.
Yeah, is it recording? Yeah. It's going, yeah. Yeah, sorry, the remainder of this sequence has been removed on legal advice.
Showbiz and former pop star turned bloated porridge-faced nation botherer David Van Day spices up morning piss cast the right stuff by chucking his girlfriend live on air.
I'm actually dating a lady, very beautiful lady, Sue Moxley from The Sun, beauty editor, yeah.
Right.
Obsessed with fame.
She can't be that obsessed with fame. She's going out with David Van Day.
We eat out a lot. We do a lot of fine dining.
Well, anyway, where they'll let you wheel in a trough.
I've had enough. And so would I dump you now? Yes, I would. You've been dumped. David, live on air, on TV, celebrity dumping.
Yeah, I think I've seen the pilot for David Van Day's celebrity dumping. It's horrible.
Oh, and next up it's national embarrassment, David Van Day, and here he goes, he's dropping his trousers, he's assuming the position, he's straining, he's straining, he's straining, he's... Oh, and he's in the target, he's in the target! Well done, David, you absolute prick!
The world of quantum physics, which, since you ask, I'm a huge expert on, gave us one of science's most famous thought experiments, the sorry fate of Schrödinger's cat.
Now, I'm simplifying here, but essentially it hypothesised that if you put a cat in a box accompanied by a canister of poison gas that may or may not leak and shut the lid, then, according to quantum theory, once it was hidden from view, the cat would be neither dead or alive, but both dead and alive until you open the lid to observe it. That, in other words, it's possible for something to exist in 2 contradictory states at the same time, which is impossible, obviously, but it's also possible. It makes your head hurt.
But that's the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics for you, eh, yeah? Anyway, at the risk of sounding pretentious, I'd like to apply this complex theory to the sad and paradoxical tale of Jade Goody. We all know who Jade Goody was, a none-too-bright reality TV star who became massively famous for simply existing, polarising opinion as she did so. Some loved her, some hated her,
And some, of course, were indifferent either way.
A lot of people said she was talentless, which wasn't strictly true.
She wouldn't have been invited on feel-good entertainment shows like this repeatedly if she didn't have something.
You know, let's face it, she had more star quality than Gordon Brown, and he's all over the telly.
Along with the sunshine, there's gonna be a little rain sometime.
In 2007, she was widely pilloried following apparent racism in a very ugly series of Celebrity Big Brother.
She may have been the ringleader, but Jade didn't actually make the worst comments of all. Those were left to Smirky McChuckle Tits here.
I think she should fuck off home.
But by virtue of being the loudest and the most well-known, Jade bore the brunt of the criticism. Suddenly everyone hated her.
Even the viewers of normally sedate GMTV.
Jade Goody is an absolute disgrace to Britain.
And then in upsetting scenes on the Indian version of Big Brother, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer. Having lived in the spotlight for years, she carried on doing so, mainly, she said, in order to provide for her son's future. So she granted harrowing and distressing front-page interviews to the tabloids, allowed her physical deterioration to be recorded by a camera crew for a genuinely unsettling TV series, and sold the rights to her fairy tale wedding to OK magazine, turning it into a slick media event in the process.
And finally she died of an easily preventable illness at a tragically young age. The end. Except it's a bit more complicated than that. Jade's death was tragic, no question there.
But the coverage of her death, well, that was hardly about death or Jade at all. Instead, it was about the news media having a collective self-perpetuating bun fight. Take the tabloid papers, which, having hurled buckets of misogynist abuse or eye-swivelling rage over Jade for years, suddenly had to perform a U-turn so huge it was visible from space and start gushing with cliched tabloid speak about inspiring bravery.
It was almost as though the press felt guilty for treating her badly in the past, although of course the press doesn't feel anything, it just wants to sell more papers.
That's why they willingly put her on the front cover as often as possible, veering into astronomical bad taste in a way that would simply alarm. Take this astonishing Daily Star front page from the 18th of February, which, as Private Eye pointed out, is actually a Photoshop version of this more jubilant photograph taken a year ago when Jade still had hair.
It's amazing to think somebody actually did that. Somebody actually sat there, spending hours photoshopping out that hair, giving Jade retrospective cancer to sell their paper. And to think the press has the temerity to moan whenever TV gets accused of faking things. What twats.
Speaking of things that want photoshopping, look at Peter Cushing here, aka Carol Malone.
Here's someone who had to change her tune quicker than an iPod shuffle.
Having berated Jade for 200 years in her shit and nasty newspaper columns, suddenly she was conducting sympathetic interviews with her before taking to the newsstands on March the 8th to say it was time to turn the cameras off Jade, asking, is it just me who's starting to feel like the spectre at the feast?
Although I think she meant look, not feel.
Luckily for Carol, before they turned the cameras off, she had time to appear in a mawkish ITV Tonight special the very next night.
She made headlines without thinking, and she was perfect.
Of course, the tabloids weren't the only ones jammed full of Jade. No, the self-appointed quality press got in on the act too. They ran plenty of chin-stroking, oh, what does it all mean pieces on the cultural meaning of Jade's suffering. There was a lot of woe-betided intellectual masturbation, which sometimes veered over into outright snobbery, such as in Rod Little's bizarre, venomous article for The Spectator. You know, I've tried to think of something clever to say about Rod Little, but he just comes across as a c***. Throughout the depressing blanket coverage, Jade was repeatedly referred to as a star of reality TV, which she was, although it's more accurate to say she was a star of reality TV and news.
After all, in her final weeks, taken accumulatively, she made far more appearances on front pages and news broadcasts than in her living TV specials.
Sally, what's the latest that you've been able to discover about Jade's condition?
The populist news broadcasts had exciting live updates, filling us in on each fresh development as and when it happened, often displaying characteristic tact.
We're also hearing that perhaps the cancer has spread to her brain. What's the latest on that, Rachel?
Meanwhile, back in the studio, there was impressive cutting-edge journalism, such as this exchange on 5 News between a reporter and a mysterious flat-screen-faced cyborg.
The boys looked absolutely beautiful on the front page. How important to Jade was it that they had a very happy day packed full of special memories?
Oh, it was very important.
They also repeatedly looped footage of her being wheeled to an ambulance, footage with a cheery watermark in the top right corner marking it the property of Mr Paparazzi, the brainchild of fatuous Mel Smith lookalike and almighty human arse-cheek Darren Lyons, seen here on Sky News giddily commenting on a comment of the sort of press coverage he's a part of.
It's a superb read, and I would love everyone to have a look at this today.
And which I'm now commenting on. This whole thing is a crazy endless feedback loop.
Of course, when the sad news actually arrived, it was broken dramatically live and we were treated to real-time spooling footage from outside her house, which we were told was a perfectly acceptable thing to do.
This is not any kind of intrusion.
This was followed by emotive coverage of well-wishers leaving flowers.
It has, in this corner of Essex, been a sombre Mother's Day.
And the occasional talking head overstating her good points to a frankly embarrassing degree.
I think for people she's become a saint, a princess, an exemplar of biblical proportions.
Yeah, she's the patron saint of celebrity perfume ranges.
At the other extreme, many people were so enraged by what they saw as disproportionate eulogising of Jade, they bravely took to the internet message boards to vent their disproportionate fury.
Well, let's take a look at some of these online messages in a feature we like to think of as the Gallery of Hate. Family going through the grieving process, they're just counting the money, says Muffin the Mule. He's used a pseudonym there because he's too scared to use his real name. While many overweight hysterical people will mourn this loss, I am mourning the loss of what was a great country sleepwalking into communism. Wise words there from Jay Hunt, disguised as idiocy. Paul from London says simply, this is the celebration of ignorance. Empty vessels make the most noise. Well, thanks for bothering to share your views, Paul. Why are we discussing the passing of a talentless, uneducated, attention-seeking, racist bully whose only real legacy is to be responsible for the word minger becoming common speech? Devil's advocate there, talking about a deceased mother of two. Are you people really so vile that you have to have a go at someone after they've died? Asks Bert Friday. Well, yes, I think you'll find they are, Bert. Strong words from Steve Wright here. Leave it be, stick her in the ground and let's all get on with our lives. Well, it's refreshing to see such spite.
Horrid though these messages are, I think they're being left by people confused to the point of anger, and it's this cognitive dissonance that reminds me of Schrodinger's cat.
Because in my head at least, the whole Jade saga existed in two states at the same time.
Because although the event itself was palpably real, the coverage felt palpably unreal. None of it seemed real, not the gaudy tabloid front pages, not the garish ads for tribute magazines published before she'd even died.
OK Magazine's special tribute issue with wonderful memories of Jade, out now.
Not the constant appearances of Max Clifford looking like a man playing Alistair Darling in a cheap TV movie. Not the tributes from establishment figures who, let's be fair, were only answering questions they'd been asked by the press.
In the end, Jade Goody died on the biggest reality show going, not Big Brother or some living TV special, but The News. After all, with its jaunty titles and its easy hate figures, its selective storytelling and its stupid viewer votes, it's a hair's breadth from being a multi-platform I'm a Celebrity spin-off.
In fact, all it needs next is a special live edition where Gordon Brown has to eat a Wichita grub or something to win the next election, and then the circle's complete. And then just before the world ends, we can all enjoy a quick look back at some of our best bits.
Yeah, well, that's about all we've got time for this evening. Go away.
Next tonight, Rory Maguire is at the mercy of Marcus Brigstock, and he's wielding a pair of straightening irons. I've Never Seen Star Wars is here in just a few moments.